Judi, we've got our winners, Liam and Millie. That
I know.
was predictable.
Totally. Absolutely predictable.
But, right, welcome to the last Love or Lie Island for 2021. I'm joined by the body language queen, that is Judi James, where for the final time this year, we're going to be looking at this year's finalists and deciding if this year's Islanders are telling us one thing, but their body language is saying something else. So, right, Judi, we have our winners, Liam and Millie. That was predictable. What did you make of last night's final?
I think it was. There were moments of drama that were missed. I'm always hoping somebody's not going to share the money. You know,
Yeah.
I think, given the fact that we saw Liam's misdemeanors again, I was really hoping that Millie might suddenly be the people's champion and say, not that he couldn't have half of the money, but just maybe give him a little bit of the money for effort and for looking 35 all the way through it. But no huge surprises, I have to say, but it was interesting.
It was interesting. I think the only little maybe upset was actually that I think Faye and Teddy beat Kaz and Tyler, but we will get to that. So we're going to go through all the couples from last night, and we're going to start with my personal champions, Chloe and Toby.
If we can conquer communication and get back on track after all we've been through, then any other challenge along the way will be as easy as fixing the broken bed.
Yeah. Falling in love.
Right now, the only future I see is with me and you together.
Oh, I'm in love.
So Chloe,
Oh, I'm in love.
will you be my girlfriend?
Now, one of the reasons I kind of really love Chloe is that I think she's a really untypical reality star. I actually think she finds sometimes the spotlight being on her quite uncomfortable, which I don't know. That's my observation. But they've had such a journey to get to that point. I think it's been such a turbulent ride. I think, and just. Not even just on kind of what they say to each other and just how their relationship came. In their body language, there was such a shift from where they were at the beginning to where they are now. What have you made about the kind of changes in their body language over the course of the
Adam,
series?
which one do you believe? The first version?
Yeah, exactly. I think I do believe the second version. I do.
No,
You're going to tell me I'm wrong. I know it.
Well, yeah. I wanted them to win for selfish reasons, and the selfish reason being that I always look to the next season, and when you get a kind of Millie and Liam winning, or it would have been the same if Liberty and Jake had clung together till the ending and acted. It would have been the same thing. That would have set the bar for what the next people in the villa would have started to act like, instead of seeing that as the formula to win. And I love the way that Chloe and Toby broke the mold. They broke the formula. They were genuinely funny. They kind of stopped worrying about what they looked like, which was amazing. I loved the way that Chloe at the end had lost all that, that squealing hair flicking, and she just started gurning at him all the time, and that made it even a better double act. So for the sake of next season, I would have loved to have seen a whole load of candidates queuing up for the next season who wanted to be more like them, less careful about worrying about how they came across maybe. But you're right, we saw two versions of them. I didn't ever believe the Toby, I've never been on a date, I'm so shy, I'm so sweet version. And I think I like the epiphany that he had, which is that he found somebody who would see him behave like a very, very naughty boy, but cope with it in a way that wasn't trying to create something perfect like Millie and Liam still were. I think we know now that when Toby gets back to sort of dry land, he's going to be like a kid in the sweet shop, can you imagine taking Toby around all the clubs? The girls would be throwing themselves at him. Are you honestly going to say that he's going to be like, no, you know, I'm Mr. Perfect? But Chloe knows that. And I think I like that about them, that they have lost some of the performance and just become hilarious and entertaining. I wish the camera had stayed on them longer because I was being very entertained by them. Yes, they kind of cobbled in this, oh, and I suddenly realised I love her stuff, but I think that's because everybody else was doing it. And I think they were a little bit more like, oh, yeah, go on, you know, neither of us really believes the other, but we're happy together, and I like that.
I think what I like about them, and I think like kind of just going what you said then, is yes, they kind of probably did get caught up in the fact that everyone else is saying those others. But I do think in the outside world, they're the most realistic about their situation and about the process they've been through. And I wouldn't be surprised if coming out they're like, okay, that was kind of wild, but maybe we should just date normally again for a bit. I found that of like a real is like they seem very kind of reasonable and rational about where they are and what was going on the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way that Toby and Chloe, their instant responses, what are you going to do when you leave? And he goes, oh, have a holiday. I mean, he's been 7 weeks, you know, on a holiday, technically. And he wants
I need a break.
And he didn't really say with Chloe. I think he thinks that he's earned his holiday. They've still got the thing that sustained the relationship, and we spoke about it earlier on. She very much adopted this, oh, he's just a boy, he's sweet, he's a baby, so this slightly maternal. I think that will be enduring. I think that's kind of the key to why that relationship works. But if she gets fed up with that, it might not be good. But they'd be the ones, much more realistic than all of the others. I mean, I didn't have to sit there with a little sick bucket watching some of those, watching their date. With the others, I was ready to hurl, quite honestly.
And that is so refreshing for Love Island, though, isn't it? Because it is, you know, a lot of the time you are kind of wincing and being like,
well, we know now, don't we? You know, we know from the past. We know. I mean, who is it? Mary and Aaron were a very good example, weren't they? They kind of really put in this effort to convince us that they'd met their soulmate, and I think they barely got on the plane and they'd split up. So I think people are hopefully a bit more cynical, but enjoying it more because of that. You know, it doesn't mean you don't enjoy it. It just means that you sit there not believing it all and almost picking who's the best actor, and I think that's a lot more fun.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Right, so next, Faye and Teddy came third over Kaz and Tyler, and it was for me by the end of this week I just got so exhausted on watching this. It just wasn't going anywhere, was it? No matter how many baths full of roses they put through, you know, it's just it. Anyway, for me this last week it's just been exhausting to watch Faye and Teddy. But let's take a look at the moment she met her brothers, Teddy's brothers, and last night's final.
After the whole explosion.
I wasn't that bad though, was I?
Yeah.
You're terrible, you're terrible, you're really
You're very bad, yeah.
Yeah, I am really sorry about that. That was awful.
Bad is an understatement, by the way.
Yeah, but I feel like my head stayed where it was. And yeah, I was fine when I was going into the Casa moment.
Yeah.
So we can see that obviously Faye is still very uncomfortable to discuss her behaviour in the villa, understandably, but she seems kind of surprised that it keeps coming up maybe, and that, you know, this is going to hang over them for quite a long time. Also just kind of looking at Teddy's reaction about how he's having to explain himself and them to everyone as well. What did you make of that, of those clips there?
I think it was a shame how far this went, really, because we both liked Faye, didn't we, at the start? Yeah. There's no way I could endorse her behaviour in there. I mean, that was, and it annoyed me slightly that the producers allowed it, that she was allowed to try really hard to spin it into something that was okay, because it wasn't. And if that had been a man doing that to one of the women in there, that would have definitely not been okay. So I felt uncomfortable watching her try to spin it. I found that a very revealing moment, that the brothers, I thought they were going to joke a bit with her, but they kind of went, no, but then their smiles died, and they really did call her out, didn't they? And you could see her gurning because it didn't work. What I didn't like to see as well was the way that Teddy was spinning that behaviour as well. It's not a good role model that he would be sitting there saying, oh, you know, I know it was difficult, in fact, but I loved you because you were feisty. Well, that's saying more of the same, please. That's acceptable behaviour. It's attractive behaviour. It's not. It really isn't. And I found that left a very nasty taste in the mouth, watching not just her try and spin it, but Teddy try to pretend that it was something adorable about her, and it absolutely really wasn't. So yeah, and that scene where they stood in the pond surrounded by those rose petals, it was almost hilarious. I mean, A, they would have had to have been airlifted in there to not disturb the rose petal design. B, all I kept thinking was, up to your waist in cold water on a date, you'd just be worried if you were going to pee yourself. I mean, that's all that anybody would be concerned is, how can I get out to the toilet, or am I going to do it in the water? So they got the least romantic.
Inside the mind of Judi James, everyone.
Practical. But the way that, Faye's body language, I think she really thought she was going to win. And towards the end, the way she just completely couldn't stop kissing him all the time. Every time he walked up to her, she did what's called a koala hug. She jumped up, put her legs around him and everything. That wasn't the Faye that we know at all. It was... No. I don't like to see that amount of spinning and effort going in to prove something that's really shouldn't work as a relationship, I don't think.
No. So if we had an imaginary league of the most compatible couples in that villa, going off last night's final, where would you put Faye and Teddy on that table?
On the least, you mean? Down number 100. I mean, unless he truly, truly loves that sort of behaviour, which I can't see, for me, they just don't blend at all, really. And I think we'll see two very different sides to them when they get outside as well. I mean, good luck to them if they do stay together, but not compatible for me.
I think he's telling himself that he likes that fiery side, and as much as he's trying to convince his brothers and everyone else, isn't it? But we shall see. So next we're going to look at Kaz and Tyler, and actually a lot of people said last week that because we mentioned that we've never seen that redemption moment from Tyler, but quite a lot of our readers have pointed out, and quite rightly so, that we haven't really been able to see anything from Kaz and Tyler.
No, I completely agree. I totally agree. Yeah, and I was just very I'm shocked isn't the right word, but the fact that they went out before Faye and Teddy, I didn't get that at all. And this is where I lose touch with the voters a lot of the time. I just sat there and I thought, how did that happen, really? But I understand that it was a bit lopsided, and Faye and Teddy, people did like Teddy, but not enough to swing it in that direction. I mean, Kaz is brilliant, There we go.
Anyway, we'll have a look at these moments from last night's episode.
I think when the text came through, the boys went to Castle, and while I was standing there, I was saying to girls, you're joking. Because everyone was like, they've left. I was like, no, they haven't. And then at first I was like, you know what, I'm not interested in getting to the new boys, kind of really like Tyler. And then the postcard came through and I was like, okay, that's my green light to get to know someone else. And then things didn't work out with Matt, and then Tyler came back to Bruce, and I was hella jealous, and I was like, oh God, miss him, and then we got back together, yeah. So obviously we've just spoken about like getting outside, and we just said we're going to keep going out in pace. Obviously our families have met now, so it's him meeting the rest of my family, and me meeting the rest of his.
Yeah. We're on the same page. We're taking our time. We're really taking our time.
So yeah, I love Kaz. I think but there's still definitely I think there is still some question marks there. I think
Yeah.
What did you? Well, we can love Kaz. How compatible do you think her and Tyler necessarily are?
I sadly don't find them particularly compatible. I think that her body language was great of a woman confident and happily in love. Every look that she threw him was the look of love and that big beaming smile. And I think because her body language was so emphatically loved up, I think we missed sometimes the fact that he was just a little bit indifferent. They they did link fingers, you know, there were moments, but generally, and I think it really came out at the end there last night, he was began to look as though he was just going along for the ride to a certain extent. He didn't make any commitments. When he said, "Oh, you know, we're going to take it slowly," I thought, well, that's not what I'm hearing from her particularly. It sounds like a done deal as far as she's concerned. So I had the feeling of cold feet from him then. I felt that he was beginning to separate by the end of the show last night. And, you know, he wasn't, we said it last week, didn't we? I mean, he didn't inspire a lot of trust if you looked at his behaviour. And it annoyed me slightly as well because he sort of said last night, "Oh, yeah, I was the knight on the charger that came in to rescue you." And he still seems to think that he came in as the perfect gent and sustained that throughout. He seems to have not realised that that night on the charger then went off on a charger to collect somebody else in the Casa Amor. You know, he wasn't this perfect boyfriend at all. But I think Liam accepted that, Toby accepted that about their behaviour. I'm a bit worried that Tyler still thinks he's an absolute catch because he's this wonderful gentleman, and he needs to just remember that, you know, he wasn't that perfect in there. He lacks the realism that some of the others, I think, have shown. Like I really worry that might have split up before they get back to Heathrow or wherever they're coming back to.
Wow. I think you're right, though. I think that comment in itself, like I was the knight in shining armors, it is really telling, isn't it? Like I don't think Toby or Liam would I think they'd know not to go that far. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think it's. I think it's. There were moments this last week though. I thought like their date was really lovely. I thought it was really lovely how he made the bed for Liberty and Kaz when he knew that Liberty needed Kaz more than he did, and I thought that was really lovely. We have seen those moments a bit with Tyler this week, but yeah, again, still not quite the same sort of level of accepting his part in Casa Amor in the same way that we saw Liam and Toby. I think. Can you see signs that they're compatible?
There are some signs, and there were some moments that I thought, oh, that does seem to be working, but it didn't seem to be sustained. And as I say, the effort was coming from Kaz. I'm afraid I think she deserves better. And she had a very rough journey in the villa, and it was. I would love to imagine that at the end of it she found what she wanted, but I'm afraid realistically, it's patchy. So they would need to be a couple that when they get alone for the first time, they can really sit there and almost begin from day one in their relationship. And that's how I would like to see it if it was going to work. So if they're prepared to do that, but you know, when they leave, they're all getting inundated with photo shoots and goodness knows what. Yeah, they do need to go on a holiday and start from scratch, I think, those two, and then hopefully something good would happen.
So finally, we're going to be looking at last night's winners, Liam and Millie. Not my winners, but I think it is clear they did absolutely adore each other. Let's take a look.
I think when you know, you know, and I definitely know I do love you.
I have definitely fallen in love with you.
So you're going to do a Chloe and Toby and get married? I don't know. I don't think Toby knows that yet.
Yeah, we definitely will be one day, won't we?
Yeah, but it's been on. It has been on my mind for a while.
Okay.
So.
So last night we saw them drop the love bomb over the weekend, and then so a lot of people were thought they saw a proposal last night. What did you think, Judi?
Yeah, I sat there and I thought, oh, you know, it's like when you're watching football and the ball nearly goes in the net, and then maybe it did, and then I thought that was a moment that they missed on Love Island, and I think they'll be kicking themselves this morning, because what I saw was that Laura said, oh, you know, have you asked her to be your girlfriend? Which is rubbish. I mean, they've been sharing the same bed for 7 weeks now. I mean, you know, what they haven't.
They said I love you. They said that's what we just
I know.
watched.
After that, it's all in the wrong order. After that, you would say, oh, and by the way, I want you to be my girlfriend. That would be pretty pants. But then Laura went on to say, or proposed marriage and everything. And I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. And he was all over it. Immediately, Liam was looking, eye contact. Well, I've been thinking. Would he say, I've been thinking about it, if it was just making you my girlfriend? I don't know. It doesn't work in my mind at all. I mean, they've been everywhere, you know, everything apart from having children in there, although they had the plastic doll. And they've done that, you know, that last sort of datey thing that they do. That's all made to look like a wedding, isn't it? I mean, that's what they're reproducing. Interestingly, comes after the baby, but never mind. I'm not a prude. But yeah, and then that's where I thought it was going to go. And I thought this is going to be a big television moment, albeit, again, a little bit sick bucket, but he's going to propose marriage. And I thought that's what he was doing. And the way that she responded, I think that's what she thought as well. But somehow it all got lost. And I think that's a pity, because I reckon that's where that show is going. I had my hat.
I actually think he looked out from like he was literally about me too. I actually thought he looked like he was literally about to bend down on one knee. And
yeah. I'd love to. I'd have frisked his pockets on the way out, because I reckon they're one of those little janky handmade ring things in there. So I think that needed just an atom more of encouragement from Laura, maybe, or the cameras coming in, and it just got a bit clumsy, and we're not sure. But I went to bed last night believing that he proposed marriage, and then I woke up this morning and I thought, why isn't that in the paper?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was like I thought I blinked for a second, and then I was like, is he doing it? Is that what he's doing? And then
unless he really is 35 years old with 3 children back in Wales, but I don't think so.
It's a big scoop. But I think it is very clear they are, you know, they do really adore each other. Except for the eye contact when they're looking there, and especially when they're telling each other that they loved each other. You know.
Yeah, I will just point out one thing about the body language was that when they were talking and saying how much in love they were and everything, you got a very, very good close-up of Millie's eyes when she looked at him. And you know about pupil dilation, that when we genuinely love somebody, our pupils dilate. You can't act it. It's a physiological response. And her pupils did dilate, so I think she genuinely does love him. There wasn't a good enough shot of him with her. I was sitting there watching everybody last night checking for pupil dilation, but I definitely saw that from Millie. So yeah, she's besotted.
Oh, that's so interesting. But yeah, no, I do think it's kind of whatever you make of them and whatever you think of their journey at this point right now, I do think, just going through all those couples that we just have, I do think they probably are the most compatible. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would see that we will probably be seeing a wedding quite near in the future. I mean, if I was a producer of a television program like This Morning, I'd be booking them on there, and I'd be encouraging them to do the proper proposal, because I think what they lost on Love Island, I think somebody else can. It's a bit like a fruit machine when somebody's put so much money in it and they didn't get the money coming out. I think he wants to have that moment, so it'll probably be on the next show or the after show or whatever. He'll be wearing a little pad on his knee, you know. I can tell by your body language, Adam, you're thinking about that pupil dilation and all your things. You'll be sitting there.
I am. I'm thinking I'm going to put it to my boyfriend later.
People should not get angry if the pupils are not dilated, but yeah, it's that's the sign. They look. I think you have to sort of forget what happened with Liam, because when you're reminded of it, and I think we were last night, I think there is a kind of, I forgot. He's so good. I forgot he did that. And that for me, if I was looking at those two, I'd be a bit worried about what happened, because I think that that's the chink that destroys the perfection of the relationship. It wouldn't have made it stronger. It would have put a little weakness in there. But no, you can see them going off to Wales and parents and goodness knows what, and getting on with that as an ongoing relationship.
No, I totally agree. I think, even though their ride hasn't been that straightforward, I think that the point they're at now, like they are literally wedding ready, like as we saw last night. Which how much more can you get from Love Island, really?
And wasn't it a shame when we saw Liberty saying that she wanted what Faye had rather than what Millie had? I thought,
that's
that's
so interesting, actually, isn't it?
That's why she was being this, I'm going to be a strong woman, and I need to be a bit more feisty and everything. And I thought, no, actually watch Millie. She's confident woman. I think Millie, why she probably forgave Liam so thoroughly is because I think Millie had very strong self-esteem and actually expected to be loved, so she could definitely channel that and work with it. I think when you get, say, Faye, and to a certain extent Chloe as well, not so strong self-esteem, had a bad dating history, and so came out fighting with all that negative response, which is not particularly good.
No, Millie's been so impressive. I think the whole way through everything that Love Island's thrown at her, I think she's always been really impressive. Really kept her cool. Really stayed true to herself, and never felt like she was getting caught up in the process of the show. I thought she was brilliant. And I think Millie probably won Love Island last night more than Millie and Liam.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I think is totally deserved, to be honest. But there we go. That's another series of Love Island done and dusted. It's been amazing. I want to say a huge thank you to Judi James and your wonderful wisdom that we've all got to enjoy over the past 7 weeks. And that is us for another year of Love or Lie Island. Until next summer.